Poor girl sits wrong. Table on blind date. Never imagine he's CEO of her company. Falls love with her. Picture this. You're nervously sitting in a bustling cafe, waiting for someone you've never met before. Your palms are sweaty, your heart is racing, and all you can think about is whether you'll make a fool of yourself. Now imagine that instead of just meeting a stranger, this blind date turns out to be the most unexpected twist of your life. One that could change everything. That's exactly what happened to Emily, an ordinary girl trying to make ends meet, who unknowingly sat at the wrong table on her blind date. Little did she know, the man across from her wasn't just any guy. He was Alexander Carter, the CEO of the company where she worked as a junior assistant. What started as an embarrassing mix-up quickly spiraled into something neither of them saw coming. Emily had always been the kind of person who flew under the radar. She didn't have expensive clothes or flashy accessories, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Life hadn't been easy for her. Growing up in a modest household taught her the value of hard work and perseverance. At 26, she juggled long hours at her office job while dreaming of one day climbing the corporate ladder. But today wasn't about career aspirations. It was about stepping out of her comfort zone. A friend had set her up on this blind date, insisting it would be good for her to put herself out there. Reluctantly, Emily agreed, though she couldn't shake off the feeling of dread looming over her like a dark cloud. The cafe was packed when Emily arrived, and she scanned the room anxiously, looking for the man her friend described, a tall guy wearing a blue shirt. Spotting someone who matched the description, she walked over hesitantly and took a seat without making eye contact. Across the table sat a man dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, his sharp jawline softened by a warm smile. He seemed polite enough, introducing himself as Alex. They exchanged pleasantries, and Emily tried to focus on the conversation despite her nerves. It wasn't until halfway through their coffee that she realized something felt off. The way he spoke, calm yet commanding, the subtle air of authority around him. It didn't quite match the laid-back vibe her friend promised. Still, she brushed it aside, chalking it up to first date jitters. Meanwhile, Alexander, or Alex, as he preferred to be called during casual settings, was having thoughts of his own. As the CEO of a major tech firm, he rarely found time for personal connections. His days were filled with board meetings, strategy sessions, and endless emails. Yet here he was, indulging in a rare moment of normalcy, hoping to meet someone genuine. When Emily approached his table, he assumed she was his date, even though she looked nothing like the woman described to him. Something about her intrigued him, though. The way she fidgeted with her napkin, the sincerity in her voice, the vulnerability behind her guarded demeanor. For once, he wasn't thinking about quarterly reports or market trends. Instead, he found himself genuinely interested in getting to know her. As they continued talking, the chemistry between them became undeniable. Emily opened up about her struggles and dreams, her passion for writing, and her desire to break free from the monotony of her daily grind. Alex listened intently, offering thoughtful responses that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced before. In return, he shared snippets of his own life, not the glitz and glamour of being a CEO, but the challenges of balancing ambition with authenticity. It was refreshing for both of them, like finding a kindred spirit in the unlikeliest of places. By the time dessert arrived, Emily almost forgot how awkward she'd felt walking into the cafe earlier. Almost, but then came the moment that sent shockwaves through their evening. As Emily reached for her phone to check the time, she noticed a missed call from her best friend, accompanied by a text message. Hey, I messed up. The guy you're meeting tonight isn't wearing a blue shirt. He's wearing a gray sweater. Are you okay? Her stomach dropped as realization dawned on her. She glanced across the table at Alex, whose expression remained calm, but curious. Is everything all right? He asked gently. Panic surged through her veins. How could she explain this? Should she leave? Pretend nothing happened? Before she could decide, Alex's phone buzzed loudly, breaking the tense silence. He glanced at the screen, his eyebrows furrowing slightly before smoothing out again. Whatever he read seemed to confirm something for him, because his gaze shifted back to Emily with a newfound intensity. Emily, he began slowly. I think we need to talk. His tone was measured, but there was no mistaking the weight behind his words. Her heart raced as a million questions flooded her mind. Did he figure out she wasn't his actual date? Was he upset? Or worse, did he recognize her from work? She wanted to disappear, to rewind time and undo the whole debacle, but fate had other plans. And now she was trapped in a situation that felt equal parts mortifying and exhilarating. What neither of them realized in that moment was how deeply intertwined their lives already were. For Emily, Alexander was more than just her boss. He represented the world she aspired to belong to, the success she secretly envied. And for Alexander, Emily was a reminder of the humanity he often lost sight of amid spreadsheets and profit margins. Their connection transcended the accidental nature of their meeting, hinting at something far greater lurking beneath the surface. But before either of them could fully process what was happening, reality intervened in the form of a ringing phone and a series of revelations that would test the boundaries of professionalism, trust, and love. Now, as Emily sat frozen in her chair, staring at the man who held the power to alter her life in ways she couldn't yet comprehend, one question lingered in the air. What happens next? Will this chance encounter lead to disaster, or will it blossom into something extraordinary? The answer lies somewhere between courage and vulnerability, between risk and reward. And as the story unfolds, you'll discover just how much too. People can change each other's lives when they least expect it. Stay tuned to find out what happens in the next chapter of Emily and Alexander's journey. A tale of mistaken identities, unexpected romance, and the blurred lines between fantasy and reality. As Emily struggled to find her voice, Alexander leaned back in his chair, his piercing gaze fixed on her. You're not my date, are you? He asked, his tone calm but laced with curiosity. Her cheeks flushed crimson as she shook her head, unable to meet his eyes. I'm so sorry, she stammered, her words tumbling out in a rush. My friend set me up, and I didn't realize. I'll just go. She grabbed her purse, ready to bolt, but his hand shot out, gently stopping her before she could stand. Wait, he said firmly, though not unkindly. Before you leave, let's clear this up. You're Emily Carter, right? From the marketing department? The moment those words left his mouth, her stomach churned. Of course he knew who she was. Everyone at the company knew him. The charismatic CEO who transformed the struggling startup into a global powerhouse. And now, here she was, sitting across from him after essentially crashing his blind date. Mortification washed over her as she nodded weakly, bracing herself for whatever came next. To her surprise, Alexander didn't seem angry. Instead, there was a flicker of amusement in his eyes, almost like he found the situation oddly refreshing. Well, this is certainly unexpected, he mused, leaning forward slightly. But tell me, Emily, why were you so nervous when you sat down? Did you think I'd bite? His attempt at humor eased some of the tension, But it didn't erase the elephant in the room. She hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Finally, she admitted, "I wasn't expecting someone like you. Honestly, I still don't know what to say." Their conversation shifted then, moving away from the awkwardness of their initial meeting and delving deeper into their lives. For the first time, Alexander spoke openly about the pressures of leadership, the isolation that came with being at the top, the constant scrutiny, and the weight of responsibility. It was a side of him Emily had never seen before, hidden beneath the polished exterior everyone admired. In turn, she shared more about her own struggles, the long hours spent proving herself in a competitive environment, the sacrifices she made to chase her dreams, and the fear of never truly belonging. What started as an embarrassing mix-up slowly evolved into something neither of them anticipated, a genuine connection. Yet, even as they grew closer, the reality of their circumstances loomed large. Their worlds couldn't have been more different. He was the CEO. She was a junior employee. Any relationship between them would be fraught with complications, both professional and personal. The line between admiration and attraction blurred dangerously, leaving them both questioning where this newfound bond might lead. Back at the office, rumors began swirling. Co-workers noticed the subtle changes in Emily's demeanor, her newfound confidence, the way she carried herself with quiet assurance. Some speculated that she'd landed a big project or secured a promotion. Others whispered about favoritism, pointing fingers at Alexander whenever he stopped by her desk to ask a question or offer guidance. Emily tried to ignore the gossip, focusing instead on her work. But it was impossible to deny the growing tension between them. For Alexander, the situation was equally challenging. As much as he valued professionalism, he couldn't shake off the feelings Emily stirred within him. She reminded him of why he started the company in the first place. Not for wealth or status, but to create opportunities for people like her, individuals driven by passion and determination. But indulging those emotions came with risks. If word got out about their connection, it could jeopardize everything he'd worked for, tarnishing his reputation and hers. The conflict reached a boiling point during a high-stakes board meeting. Tensions ran high as Alexander presented a bold, new strategy aimed at expanding the company's reach. While most executives supported his vision, a few dissenting voices raised concerns about potential risks. Amidst the heated debate, Emily walked into the conference room, delivering documents requested by one of the board members. Her presence momentarily distracted Alexander, drawing murmurs from the others. One particularly critical board member, Richard, seized the opportunity to challenge him. "Alexander," Richard said pointedly, "isn't that your assistant? Or should we call her your muse these days?" The room fell silent, all eyes shifting uncomfortably between Emily and Alexander. Heat rose to her face as she quickly excused herself, clutching the folders tightly against her chest. Alexander's jaw tightened, his composure cracking under the weight of Richard's insinuation. Though he managed to steer the meeting back on track, the damage was done. Doubts lingered in the air, casting a shadow over his authority. That evening, Emily found herself unable to focus. She replayed the scene in her mind, cringing at the memory of those judgmental stares. Was she naive to believe they could navigate this without consequences? Just as she contemplated sending Alexander a message to apologize, her phone buzzed. It was him. "We need to talk." The text read simply. Her heart raced as she debated whether to respond. Part of her wanted to run, to distance herself from the chaos brewing around them. But another part, a stronger, bolder part, knew she couldn't walk away without hearing him out. They met later that night at a quiet park near her apartment. The cool breeze carried traces of autumn leaves, rustling softly in the background. Alexander arrived first, pacing back and forth until Emily appeared, her silhouette illuminated by the dim streetlights. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice tinged with relief. She nodded, folding her arms across her chest, as if shielding herself from the truth. "What did you want to say?" she asked cautiously. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "Emily, I won't lie to you. This isn't easy, for either of us, but I can't ignore what I feel, no matter how complicated it gets. You've shown me a side of myself I thought I'd lost, and I don't want to let that go." His confession caught her off guard, stirring emotions she'd tried so hard to suppress. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, "But what about the company? What about us?" Before he could answer, a car pulled up nearby, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Out stepped Richard, the same board member who had questioned Alexander earlier. "Fancy seeing you two here," he remarked dryly, his tone dripping with accusation. "Care to explain yourselves?" The blood drained from Emily's face as she realized the gravity of the moment. They were cornered, exposed, with no way to escape the fallout. As Richard advanced toward them, the stakes higher than ever, the question remained: would their love survive the storm, or would it crumble under the pressure? Richard's sudden appearance felt like a punch to the gut, his accusing glare pinning Emily and Alexander in place. The air grew heavy with unspoken accusations, and for a moment, neither of them could find their voice. But then Alexander stepped forward, his posture steady, despite the tension crackling around them. "What are you doing here, Richard?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. "I could ask you the same thing." Richard shot back, his lips curling into a smug smile. "Meeting your assistant, late at night. It doesn't look good, Alexander. Not for you, and certainly not for her." His words hung in the air like a storm cloud, threatening to rain destruction on everything they'd worked so hard to build. Emily felt her knees weaken, but she forced herself to stand tall. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Alexander too. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. Taking a deep breath, she spoke up. "If you have something to say, Richard, say it. But don't twist this into something it's not." Her voice trembled slightly, but there was steel beneath her words. Richard raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her defiance. For a moment, no one said anything, the silence thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Alexander broke the standoff. "Enough," he said sharply, stepping between Emily and Richard. "Whatever you think you know, whatever agenda you're pushing, it ends now. Emily deserves better than this, and so does the company. If you have concerns about my leadership, bring them to the board, not here, not like this." His authority rang clear, leaving no room for argument. Richard hesitated, his confidence wavering under Alexander's unwavering gaze. After what felt like an eternity, he muttered something under his breath and climbed back into his car, driving off into the night as the sound of the engine faded. Emily exhaled a shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "That was," she began, trailing off as she searched for the right word. "Intense," Alexander finished for her, running a hand through his hair. He turned to face her, his expression softening. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. You didn't deserve any of it." She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's not your fault, but we can't keep pretending this isn't happening. People are going to talk, no matter what we do. And honestly, I don't know if I can handle that kind of scrutiny." Her voice cracked, betraying the weight of her emotions. Alexander reached out, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me handle it," he said softly. You've already proven yourself more than capable. You don't need to carry this burden alone. The next morning, Alexander called an emergency meeting with the board. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Instead, he laid out the truth, how he and Emily had crossed paths unexpectedly, how their connection had grown organically, and how he refused to let baseless rumors or professional jealousy dictate his choices. I built this company on integrity and hard work, he declared, his voice resolute. And I won't let anyone undermine that, not even myself. Yes, I care about Emily, but I also believe in her talent, her dedication, and her potential. If anyone has a problem with that, they're welcome to take it up with me. His speech left the room in stunned silence. Some board members exchanged uneasy glances, while others nodded in quiet agreement. Though not everyone was convinced, the majority respected Alexander's transparency and leadership. As for Richard, he kept his distance after that night, knowing he'd pushed too far. With the immediate crisis averted, Emily and Alexander faced the challenge of navigating their relationship within the confines of the workplace. They agreed to keep things professional during office hours, focusing on their respective roles without letting personal feelings interfere. Outside of work, however, they allowed themselves the freedom to explore what they meant to each other. It wasn't easy. There were still whispers, still moments of doubt, but they leaned on each other, finding strength in their shared vulnerability. Months later, Emily found herself standing in front of the entire company during an annual awards ceremony. To her astonishment, Alexander called her name, presenting her with an award for outstanding contribution to the team. As applause filled the room, she caught his eye, and he gave her a subtle nod, pride shining in his gaze. In that moment, she realized how far she'd come, not just professionally, but personally. She'd walked into a blind date, expecting nothing, only to discover a love that challenged her, inspired her, and ultimately changed her life. Looking back, Emily knew their journey hadn't been perfect. There were missteps, misunderstandings, and moments when giving up seemed easier than fighting for what they had. But through it all, they'd chosen honesty, trust, and respect, values that transcended titles and expectations. Their story became a testament to the idea that love could bloom in the most unexpected places, even amidst chaos and uncertainty. As the camera pans out, capturing Emily and Alexander, sharing a quiet smile across the crowded room, the audience is left with a sense of hope. Love, after all, isn't about perfection. It's about finding someone who sees you for who you truly are and believes in the person you're striving to become. And sometimes, fate has a way of bringing two people together in ways neither of them could have imagined.